this is by no means autobiographical, but of course, very personal to you. And I mean, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the process of letting collaborators into something so personal. I mean, I'm thinking specifically, of course, of your cast, Aubrey in particular, Aubrey and Chris and Sarah, but what is that process like to bring them into your world and to work with them so intimately on this?
I kind of have a mechanism wherein when I'm done with my script and I set out to make the movie, I kind of try to forget that I'm the writer. And do my best to just sort of approach the material as if I'm a director for hire working on someone else's script. And kind of cultivating that mentality has helped me a lot because it keeps me open to collaboration from the actors who have to embody these roles and really make them their own. So I wouldn't say that's a problem. It's actually kind of a thrill to see what great actors can do with your work. And in the case of this film, it was beyond what I expected.
Now, maybe you disagree, but in my mind, this almost fits into what it feels like a quasi subgenre of thrillers, for lack of a better way to put it, where, nothing good ever happens when you put a couple of attractive people in a cabin in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
But obviously we kind of use that setting to explore a lot. So I wondered, why did that feel like the ideal atmosphere to kind of set this conversation in?
A couple things came together at once for me. So I had done a bunch of, so after Sofia and I, that's my wife, who's also a director and who I work with often, after we had made a bunch of indies, which were not remunerative, like we just didn't have any money, we moved to LA and I took a ton of work for hire. And I did that for about 5 years. And I finally had saved up enough money to go back and think about doing something of my own. And I knew that I wanted to do something that was very different because I was really tired of the Hollywood approach to doing things, which, has its value, but it's constrictive in certain ways for someone who's independent minded. So I really wanted to do something very creative and different that didn't have a typical 3-act structure. Simultaneously, a friend of mine showed me some pictures of an estate that his family had, or like a camp. His family had a camp with a bunch of cabins on a lake, and he was like, "You should make a movie here." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds good." I was like, "Oh, cool. Maybe I can just make a movie here." It seems like he would cut me a deal. So I started to think of what could take place in a location like this. And then right around the same time, I acted in a TV show with Aubrey. And she seemed like someone who'd be very interesting to work with. So all that stuff came together at once. And that was the kind of fertilizer for Black Bear.
Well,
I'm laughing because fertilizer is shit, but
right. Yeah, but I mean, it's the good version of shit. So
yeah, the good version of shit. That was the good version of shit.
Yeah. So I mean, something that I always love about what I was calling this quasi subgenre of sorts is thinking about the process of truly all these bodies, the cast, the crew, yourself, in such a small place.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this movie has an interesting take on that, but I wondered, I mean, how does that affect things? You guys are kind of on top of each other, for lack of a better way to put it, for however long it takes to film. So how does that change the mood and the way that you approach filming?
I don't know that my experience would be the same as everybody else's, just because I had so much on my shoulders for the production that it was a very isolating and lonely kind of experience. Directing a movie is pretty lonely. Like you're kind of become a de facto father figure or leader or whatever, whether you want to be that or not. It always feels like you're just asking people to do things they don't want to do, particularly in a movie like this where the material is upsetting and dark. So I think I had a different experience than everybody else on set.
I actually find it kind of humiliating.
Roll sound.
Mark. Okay, whenever you're ready. Action.
How much was the line blurred between the crew that we see and the actual crew on set? Were you kind of managing two different crews in that sense, or how does that work?
Most of the people, all of the people with, well, no, I'll say most of the people with speaking parts in the movie were not on the crew of the film, but there were no extras in the film. So any film crew that you see in the film that's not really speaking, that doesn't seem to have scripted lines, was a crew member. So there was definitely overlap between people working on screen and off. And there was a lot of mirroring between events that happened in the film and events that happened in real life. For example, like people walking into glass doors and things like that. Like all of these things, and I don't know if that's just because these kinds of things are endemic to independent film shoots, or because the movie was conjuring these events to happen, or there was some weird synchronicity happening, or whatever. But there was a ton of stuff that happened in the movie that also happened in real life on set. And then there were also things that were more amazing and funnier that happened on set than made it into the movie. And I would love to have had the chance to write the movie again after having this experience, you know.
Were there any tilapia incidents, I should ask?
Oh, that was directly from me, because
yeah.
I suffer from, like, I guess, irritable bowel syndrome when I'm stressed out, which a movie said. Yeah, so that was autobiographical.
I also, one other specific production question, I was talking to Chris and Sarah just a minute ago, and I was like, maybe you guys wouldn't have seen, but was there ever actually a bear on set? So I figured you would know. Did you ever have a bear?
I saw a bear. I was very up close and personal with the bear, but none of the cast were. So we shot all the bear stuff in a different location that was mocked to look like the A location. So no, the actors were never on set with a bear, but I was, and man, I'll tell you, it's very hard to direct a beast. They don't take direction well.
I can imagine, yeah. I love the structure of this film. I love the note that we end on. Do you like to hear from folks who have seen it what their interpretation is of the way things went, or do you kind of prefer to just have it in your own contained?
No, I'm interested in hearing what people think, because what I tried to do is I thought, okay, the first idea that I had was that part 2 would be the behind the scenes making of the first, but that seemed uninteresting to me. And I started to think of all these other possibilities. And then what I tried to do was include enough evidence so that people could find grounding for any one of them. Mm-hmm. But I'm interested to hear if anyone thinks of something I haven't thought of. Both of the parts came to me in flashes like I've never had before. So basically she's just on the dock having flashes of the two films, and then she goes back to write them. Mm-hmm. And you're left to wonder, what connection they have to her real life, if any.
I've been lying since the second I got here.
You're in love with her, you are, I know it.
This is what you wanted, okay? This was going to ruin us. Okay, cut.
I just want to be normal people again.